Well, what's happening there is a little behind the scenes stuff. Samsung Display and Samsung Electronics are two different companies, even though they both license the name Samsung. And so Samsung Display sells Samsung Electronics for the phones, displays that Samsung Electronics has designed and tasked Samsung Display to build. Apple designs its own displays, kind of like how Foxconn builds the iPhone. Apple builds its own OLED displays, gives it to Samsung Display, and they build that for Apple. So Apple's not taking off-the-shelf parts that you would find in an S22 and then just putting those into an iPhone. But since Samsung Electronics gets preference, they get to go first. And so if there's only this many displays, like 120 hertz adaptive, right? If there's only this many displays they can make at first with that tech, Samsung Electronics is going to get that before Apple can, until they can make enough for all of their customers. And so that's why Apple's kind of behind on the display tech. This is Geared Up. John, we're not even going to do the whole intro. We're never going to do the whole... We are back.
You can't even say you're weekly anymore.
No, we can't. But I mean, we're back to weekly.
Okay.
But what's more important... I've been observing you. John.
Uh-oh. Like the Watcher?
On Instagram. You know, we're friends. We follow each other on these different networks.
It's true.
You are a devout fan.
That is true.
Of one Los Angeles Rams. This is a football team. Now, that was a weird way for me to say it, but I'm not a sports guy, so that just came out super weird.
I should say, I grew up when the Rams were in LA before they moved. They played in Orange County. They played at Angel Stadium. And that's about 15 minutes from my house. So I used to go see the Rams play with my dad at least twice a season as a kid. And that was some of my earliest football memories.
Okay.
So when they came back to LA, I had to get seats.
Today is the day after the Super Bowl 2020. Do you call it Super Bowl 2022? Do you call it like Super Bowl 58? What?
Super Bowl 20. Let's call it 2022. I'm rocking my modern throwback Stafford jersey here, although there's no video for anybody watching this. I'm jazzed, and I will say, I was getting texts from our guests as we regularly do talk football throughout the season.
Our guest. I totally forgot about our guest.
Sometimes we lament our teams. Sometimes we celebrate them. Sometimes we can celebrate the success of former teammates.
Let's talk about our guest here, because we forgot to intro. I was too busy hyping up your team.
Can I do the intro this time?
Oh, please do.
So our guest this week is a face you will recognize.
Cleveland Browns fan.
Cleveland Browns fan. Don't hold that against him. A face you will recognize. A voice you will know. A generally good and kind human being who makes some of the best Mac-related content on the internet.
He really does.
And if his sets seem familiar, don't hold it against him. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Dan Barbera from MacRumors.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. John, okay, let's just say we are also huge fans of your channel, and it might have subliminally crossed my mind where I was like, I'm going to do a brick wall thing because I've seen that, and I like the look, and I want to change it up. And then it just so happens that everything else just happened to look exactly the same. It's fine. It's fine. What is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So
that works.
We're going to have to cut this podcast short because I'm going to have to figure out a new set for the rest of our channel now. But also, congratulations, dude. I know I'll personally probably never experience this, but I'm so glad that you were able to experience a Super Bowl win. I know we have some former teammates there. Austin Corbett, the center. Yeah. That's the only one I can think of that's a Ram now, right?
Yeah, no one else with different color hair. It plays wide receiver.
No, good for him. I'm happy that he won. I'm happy you guys won. As a diehard Browns fan, I'm irrationally against all division rivals, so I did not want, even though they're from Ohio, absolutely not. Did not want Cincinnati to win.
Can't we just say, like, if the Bengals can go from last in the division to first, there's hope for every team.
Except the Browns.
As long as Baker Mayfield's a quarterback, there's probably less hope. I just ripped off the Band-Aid, sorry. I didn't mean to do open wounds here.
It hurts so much.
How about this? You're the GM. Are you keeping Mayfield?
Unless I can get Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. I mean, there's a guy in Houston.
I know to say it.
There's a guy in Houston I wouldn't touch personally because, he's got some issues. But, like, let's just say that was not a thing. Yeah, I mean, I would trade for him in a heartbeat just from a football talent. But, like, if it's not those three guys, and I'm also a Kirk Cousins fan, and I think he could do pretty well. If it's not for any of those guys, yeah, I'm going to continue with Baker and just hope that it was his injury. And that's the reason why everything kind of fell apart.
Fair.
I have no idea what anyone is talking about
But
right now.
I also want to say that, John, you should know that technically Cleveland won too, because the Rams were the Cleveland Rams.
Cleveland Rams, absolutely.
Yeah, so, you know.
Did you just go back in time?
That counts, right?
That's where they found. They actually came from Cleveland originally. I've got a Cleveland Rams jersey. Yeah.
Yep. They were originally the Rams, and I think they went to St. Louis first or LA first?
LA first, then St. Louis.
LA first, then St. Louis, then back. Okay. Yeah. So
the Cardinals were in St. Louis. That's where they got their start.
Okay.
All right, Andrew, if it's not XFL, whatever weird football you follow, there's probably, there's not weird like one-pointers and strange kickoffs, and you just got no idea what we're talking about.
Andrew, give us Russell Wilson, please. Go make it happen.
Please do. I don't know.
I'd be happy to have him out of the division. I hope you trade for him. I hope somebody trades for him.
Why? What does that mean?
He's in we probably lost half our audience here, but in the Rams division, it's really good. Be happy to have him out of the division.
Wait, before you move on, John, am I wrong where I was irrational and like, I know they're not in the same state. That was the reason why people were going for Cincinnati when you're from Cleveland. But let's just say Arizona, Seattle, or who's the other one in your division that I keep forgetting?
Niners.
San Francisco. Yeah, so San Francisco's in the same state. Would you have pulled for San Francisco if they were in the Super Bowl?
No, I'd actively root against them. I would have pulled for whoever they were playing.
All right, cool. Good. All right, just wanted to make sure.
And your take on Baker, that was accurate. Unless there's a better alternative, like you kind of just roll with what you have.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the draft is going to be good. So,
John, give me an anecdote here. Why were you not? I would assume if anyone that I knew was going to be at this game,
yes,
it would be you.
So, and it's a bucket list of mine to be at a Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl was in Los Angeles.
Right. So, what happened here?
So, I have season seats, but season ticket holders for the team generally speaking, don't get Super Bowl tickets because it's considered like a separate thing. So the NFL has seats, and they give them out to the home team, and the home team does the thing. So I won a raffle, actually, through the Rams with season ticket holders to buy seats. They were not my seats for the season, but they were predetermined seats, and they were in the upper bowl directly behind the end zone. And they were prohibited to be resold, and then they were $2,000 a ticket on top of that. And then any tickets on the secondary market where it'd be a really good seat to watch the game were like $15,000, $20,000. My seats that I sit in for the regular season for the Super Bowl were going for $30,000 a ticket. So I made the right parental choice, and I kept my kids in private school for a year and did not come watch the game from home.
You could have sold the Lucid.
I mean, I could have.
To fund this.
My wife would have looked at me sideways. So I watched it from home and just paced like a madman. It's not my proudest moment.
Do we have video? Did your wife take video of you?
It was prohibited.
Did you cry?
She didn't.
Okay.
She didn't, fortunately.
I made her sign an NDA.
I was coming close to crying. like Sean Watson? No.
Oh, gosh. I got teary-eyed when we won the playoff game. Like, that's probably never going to happen again. I mean, maybe it will, but that was pretty close for us because it's like, it just doesn't happen.
I think that's fair. I mean, I got emotional for the players, right? Stafford, 12 years in Detroit, never won a playoff game, comes to LA's first year, wins 4 playoff games, obviously one of those being the Super Bowl. Odell Beckham Jr. was the problem in Cleveland. He was a locker room cancer. Comes, and if he didn't horribly tear his ACL, was on pace to probably be the MVP.
I just need to say something. The broadcast and how they portrayed Odell's departure could not be further from the truth. Listen, I might be one of the only people in Cleveland, besides like the players themselves on the team, that does not care whether he wins or loses. Like I wasn't rooting against him. It just did not bother me at all that he got it. I wanted the Rams to win, but he was not innocent in that whole thing whatsoever.
No, definitely not.
But they were like, oh, he got himself out of he was on the streets. So it's like, no, he was not on the streets. Al Michaels, I liked you, but stop it. He was not on the streets. He orchestrated that. It happened. Good for him for getting out and being smart. But it wasn't like he kind of earned that part. He did play well for you guys. I'm glad.
He did. I was not a fan of Collinsworth and Michaels. I didn't think their broadcast was all that great last night.
Yeah, and they're my favorite. Like, Sunday Night Football is great, but yeah.
On to some tech. Related tech.
We should probably talk
related tech.
Yeah.
John, can you tell us a little bit about, because I know you've been there several times, the stadium.
Yes.
Because on TV, I was like, just looking, I was like, this has to be the most teched out stadium.
It is
out there right now.
The most incredible stadium I've ever seen in my life. I actually had the opportunity. I worked with Cisco. It was unfortunate during a Chargers game, but I got to go to the control room and I got to see the wiring, see the hard wiring, see the monitoring that happens to make this game go is unbelievable. They've got the largest 4K monitors in the world. They call it the Oculus. It's like dual side, so anywhere you sit, you can see it. The stadium, even if you're not a fan of the sport, it's worth going just for a landmark.
Yeah.
A landmark thing. It's absolutely unbelievable. And do the Rams play the Browns next year? I feel like they might be on the schedule.
I was just going to ask you, I need to come out because I want to go to that stadium. So,
are they playing next year? I think they might be.
I need to check. I'll check it out and I'll let you know. But
if they are, Dan, you'll be my guest for that game.
Okay.
What's the coolest thing about this stadium as an attendee?
The Oculus.
Like, what are some cool things?
So the stadium is built down. So you walk in, it's open air, but it has kind of a translucent roof on it. You walk in on the 6th level and they built down because it's near the airport. So they couldn't, have it go up that high. You have to see this Oculus. Cowboy Stadium has a big video board. This thing is circular. Right. It is a curved, dual-sided display. They're blanketed with ultra wideband from pretty much every carrier. So not only can you actually send and receive messages, you can stream video. They've got immersive experiences going on there. And it's not just you can do a video like a little bit. I mean, you're getting like 500-600 down on cellular, and they have a Wi-Fi network there that works.
That's nice.
It's unbelievable. And just the way the stadium's designed, the look, the aesthetic, it's all new, is unbelievable. Drew, if you want to come down for a game next season, I would love to have you.
I'm down. I'm down for it. How's the food in that stadium? I always wonder about stadiums' food because some stadiums have amazing food.
Because I want to know too.
So I should say, I've been pretty COVID careful at these stadiums. Most people there, I don't want to get in like a political debate, they're not wearing masks, despite what the stadium rules are. I generally kept my mask pretty tightly on my face. And this is the first year fans were allowed in the stadium. So I have not fully experienced the cuisine, but I will say I do walk by sushi. I do walk by gourmet pizzas, kale bowls. I mean, everything's stereotypical. You can think about like California. There's definitely rocking it.
Nothing says football like kale bowls.
Yeah, and sushi. Sushi. I will say the craziest thing about the stadium too, they have suites that are field level. So like the seats start up higher above the suite. So you can get a box on the field, which is crazy. And then
when they do a clear view.
Like a straight
view. Nobody's in front of you.
Nobody's in front of you. And then the view, except for the players, maybe, walking by on the sidelines. And then when they do the press conferences afterwards, it's like a glass box. You can actually, if you have that suite there, you can actually watch all the stuff happening. It's very cool.
That's cool. One thing about the Super Bowl, commercials. This year, it seemed like it was like all about EVs and crypto. Like almost every commercial.
And Multiverse of Madness.
That's true. Multiverse of Madness, the legit trailer. How about that Nope trailer, though? Dan, did you watch that?
I was in the process of watching it, and then you guys called for this. But I saw the trailer from last night, and Andrew, I'm a pretty big horror fan, all that. Jordan Peele's made some incredible movies, so I'm 100% interested in this. I believe it's a extraterrestrial type deal, right?
Isn't that what I read? It, but they didn't actually say it. They didn't say it,
but I'm pretty sure I read something that gave that thing away of what it kind of is. So yeah, sign me up, man. I'm 100% interested. I need to finish the trailer after this. But yeah, there's so many EVs that are coming out apparently.
Right.
But a lot of my thought process during all that is like, okay, but when am I really going to be able to drive those? Like, when am I going to be able to go to the dealership and actually pick one up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Polestar.
They came out swinging, huh?
Right. When are they dropping that car?
That car's been out for about a year, man. That's a Polestar 2.
The Polestar 2? The Polestar 2? Well, that's already out.
That's been out for a while.
I've never seen one. Can you just walk in and buy one right now?
Yeah.
Or is it like you place an order and you wait?
So they're owned by, the parent company is Volvo, which is owned by Geely. So they kind of have a dealer model, but they've done it very Tesla-like. Like there's no markup. You can figure online. You don't have to like pick a dealership and then negotiate with that dealership to get it. So it's a nice combination of the old and the new kind of models.
And what do you think of those vehicles, John? I'm sure you have.
They're awesome. They're really good. Like, I mean, they're using the new Android Automotive system built in. The range is okay. I think it's like 230 or so. The performance is really solid. It's a smaller car, Model 3-ish.
Oh, okay.
Size. But
it looks bigger.
It looks the shape made it look almost like a station wagon kind of or something.
It's kind of hatchback. Well built, well designed. I mean, Volvo's got their act together, and this is their EV brand. It's a great car and deserves people to look at it. Now, their ad campaign's another story.
Right.
It seemed unnecessary to take the ire of Tesla fans, but I mean, listen, they're in the conversation, right? We're talking about them.
That's it.
Yeah.
And everybody else just seemed like, hey, we're making EVs at some point. At some point, It was like by 2025, 2026, we'll have some.
At some point, there'll be a Silverado. At some point, you'll get the Lyric. At some point,
so what's the deal with that though? Like, why all of this at the Super Bowl years in advance?
They're happily taking $100 reservations for it.
Fair enough.
Would be my guess.
Right.
Happily taking them right now for it. They announced the car right after CES. Supposed to be a CES announcement, but then I think because of COVID stuff, it kind of peaked up right around then. It looks great, man. The infotainment system looks awesome. I mean, they're using GM's Ultium batteries, which is what Cadillac is using. Their tech is solid. They just got to actually ship more than 27 electric vehicles per quarter, and I think they'll be all in.
Right. Do you still have any EVs pre-ordered?
I do. I haven't canceled a lot yet. I still have the R1T and the R1S.
Okay.
I did cancel my Plaid Model X, because obviously I don't need that. But my wife has a long-range Model X that she's getting, which is moved from December to January to February to March, and now it's moved to April. So whenever Tesla delivers that, we'll be all set.
Just continues moving.
It just continues moving.
Cybertruck, did you get rid of that one?
I haven't yet, but I can't drive that.
Why not?
Like I'll tell you why. For the same reason I enjoyed the Super Bowl show. Too old. They're the halftime show. I saw a tweet. It was like, if you enjoyed the halftime show, it's probably time to check for a colonoscopy.
Oh my God.
Or if like all the Gen Z was wondering why their parents were jumping up and down during the Super Bowl.
Dude, I saw a tweet that was like, we finally have something better than the Rolling Stones, the Who, etc. Yep. Something for young people. And then all of a sudden the young people realize, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So we're not young anymore.
Nope.
It was dope though. It was so good. I love that halftime show.
It was fantastic.
It was so good.
I thought it was gonna be an Eminem. I thought it was gonna be like a mostly Eminem performance, but it turned into like a Dr. Dre which was totally fine by me. It was still great, but yeah, Eminem apparently kneeled and he wasn't supposed to. He had an agreement.
I mean, the NFL said they knew about it and they asked him not to, but they weren't going to stop him.
Okay.
Why?
How could you? How could you stop him?
Yeah.
I mean, but what was the point of the reason not to? Like, who cares? It wasn't even like. That's not like the kneeling. Anthem was playing. Well, it's not like when people associate. No, but seriously, when people associate disrespectful quote unquote kneeling, it's when the anthem's playing. So like, honestly, if they just let him kneel and no one said anything, I would not have noticed that to be like any kind of. I thought he was supposed to kneel because the next transition was happening.
Act. Yeah,
I thought the same thing. I did not put two and two together when I saw that. In all fairness, either.
And even if he was, I don't want to lose any more of your audience because, everybody's different.
No, we have chapters here. We have chapters here. It's okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, I still don't want to alienate myself even more, but like, who cares? It's using his platform to be passionate about something. We all do it. Like, just let him do it. I don't know. Just my thoughts.
Can I say the last thing about the Super Bowl and I will move on? But how about Matthew Stafford changing the narrative on his career? In one season, just like completely changing it.
I mean, now he should be definitely in the Hall of Fame, right? I mean, he has the numbers for it. He won a Super Bowl. What else does he need?
First ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, in his first year, not only did he win more Super Bowls than the Cowboys the past 20 years, he now has as many Super Bowl rings as Aaron Rodgers, who played his whole career in Green Bay.
Yeah. Yep. One more and he'll get, Eli should be in there too, but there's so many people that just don't see that for some reason. Yeah. And I'm like, why? The guy beat the Patriots twice, a dynasty. And he had an up and down regular season, but I mean, he was the reason why they were good when they were good. So, and their defense was pretty good too, but
their defense was solid. But anyway, I just thought I wanted to throw that one out there because
fair enough.
I got sick of hearing
go Matt Stafford, go Detroit Rams.
I give so much respect for Lion fans, man. At the Red Wings game, they put like "Go Rams" up on the jumbotron. Yep. I thought that was pretty cool. I have a lot of respect for folks from Detroit after this season. All right.
Hardware. Let's talk hardware.
Let's talk tech. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
How about these? The Samsung Galaxy S22, S22 Plus, and S22 Ultra lineup has been announced. Don, I believe you have these devices in hand, right?
I do have these devices, and I learned more about the Ultra from watching Dan's TikTok videos, which I thought did a really nice job actually explaining the highlights.
Which is interesting. Dan, do you have this? Do you have this phone?
Wow, way to call me out. There was a compliment, and then it immediately takes a back turn. Like, because
I thought it was a really good video. Like, it's hard to summarize the features.
I appreciate the comment.
I tried comment on that video.
I know, and I really appreciate the comment. And then Andrew
did you? I left the comment on your Instagram one.
I didn't realize you had that. You must not have a lot of followers. As what is the subtext of what Andrew was implying Like,
come on.
No.
He's our guest. You gotta treat him with respect.
No, that wasn't the subtext. The subtext is, it's funny that the guy that doesn't have the phone taught the guy that has the phone something about the phone.
I didn't say taught me. I just appreciated how he shared the information.
Okay. I thought you said you learned. No,
I just appreciated how he shared it because I know how hard it is to summarize all of those things in a short video and make it entertaining. And I respect people when they can do it.
Dan is excellent at this. Yes, of course.
Thank you. I will just take the compliment and just disregard Andrew's backhanded compliments. And yeah, I mean, I don't have them, but just kind of looking at what was said about them and reading the information, I think I have a pretty good understanding of what they're going to be. Also, I've used pretty much every S and Note device since I started doing this like 6 years ago. So,
which is probably surprising to people, right? That's probably surprising to folks to learn that you use Samsung devices. I
think for those who are probably listening and like, I've been on your show before, and if they just only recognize me from being on MacRumors and doing Apple stuff, like I started my own channel doing OnePlus, like the original OnePlus One. That was my first video, I believe. And then the LG G2. Like, so I started because I just loved switching phones and using a bunch of Android devices, and you only get one iPhone a year. So that was kind of my thing. And I wanted to test out as many phones as possible. So yeah, like I love Android. I respect it for what it is. And there are many times where I want to switch, but I don't want to be that person who's using the green bubbles and getting shamed for our group chats being terrible. But when that eventually, it'll never happen. But if it ever does, then I'll probably be switching to some other phones. But I'm excited. We have ours, we pre-ordered a couple, the regular 22 and the Ultra, which is basically a Note. Am I correct?
It is. Yeah. It is for all intents and purposes a Note. Actually, John, let me ask you a question. This is a quick aside. I did a video on the Ultra, right? And I put in the thumbnail,
I wish you could
see
Samsung
tricked you. Samsung tricked you.
Very sassy, Andrew.
Okay. Because it's like they're calling it a S22 Ultra, but when you look at the S21 Ultra versus like something like the Note 20 Ultra, it's more of a Note Ultra, right? So I just put Samsung tricked you. Everybody's calling me out in the comments. Why did you put, what is this thumbnail all about? This thumbnail's clickbait. So I wanted to ask John, the master of thumbnails that lead you one way.
Here comes the backhanded.
And take you, no.
Okay.
Do you get these kinds of comments? And if so, how do you handle them? I'm like, half the comments are talking about my thumbnail.
I mean, first of all, thanks for the engagement. But the biggest thing about a thumbnail and the biggest thing the YouTube algorithm uses, the first thing they use is CTR. Like, if people are clicking on it, and then it's how long are they watching it. So, I mean, if your job is to get views, then your video got the views. I always think that the thumbnail at least needs to be honest, and that your opinion of they tricked you with the name is your opinion. I think there's always going to be a faction of people that are going to call out thumbnails anyway, and that's just sort of how it is. But I think if you can walk the line of, like, you don't want to be dishonest, and you don't want to say something that's not in the video, but also you have to get people to click on the videos. You got to separate yourself from the other 400 videos that were talking about the S22 Ultra, which is a very hard line to walk.
My whole goal with that, by the way, was it was like they tricked you in a good way. Like they said they were giving you a Galaxy S and they gave you a Note.
I mean, but in all fairness, you knew what you were doing when you did it, right? Like, I mean, you knew you were getting spicy when you did it.
Spicy.
Right. But I figured you'd click on it and be like, oh, okay, this is great. Not click on it and be like, oh, they didn't trick me.
But that's assuming people watch the video. Like, if I don't show you something in the thumbnail, I don't talk about it in the first 6 seconds. They're like, that's not what the video's about. I was like, it was literally 48 minutes in the video. It's 48 seconds in the video, but okay, sure. That's not what it's about.
Right.
I mean, if you really want to get spicy, I mean, they didn't trick you, but they pretty much just took the leftover S21 or the Note 20 units and just upgraded some internals and
switched up the internals. Right? There you go.
I mean, that's pretty much what it looks like to me.
But that's not a bad thing.
No, I mean, everybody liked that phone. I loved that phone. I'm excited to test out the camera. I'm not sure what the major differences are between them in terms of actual image quality and the processing and all that. Obviously, we'll be doing comparisons to the Pro Max. Have you guys been able to do that yet and take a look?
I've done some. Yeah. The camera is, I mean, this is obvious. Like, it's the best one they've ever done. But to me, it's more, I've never liked the Samsung camera that much. And now I really like it. At least on the Ultra. I haven't done much camera testing on the S22 standard.
Video is really impressive too on it. And I think
they've always done pretty well with that.
It wasn't really until the 888 where I thought that they really kind of closed that gap with what Apple is doing. Video's really good on this phone. I think where the problem is, where the narrative of Android being bad for video comes in, is third-party apps and how it gets compressed, right? With Snapchat and TikTok. That's where that narrative comes from. But like video straight from the camera is baller good, like really good.
Very good.
Really, really good. And the screen is crazy bright. You look at the screen, you're like, oh, this is what the iPhone 15 screen is going to be. Like, cool. That's going to be super bright.
Apple really needs to just blatantly figure out what they're doing with their screen. I mean, for the most part, their supplies come from Samsung. So how is there such a massive disconnect? Because you're right. Whenever I pick up any of Samsung's latest flagships, I'm always blown away at how bright, vibrant, and just crisp their displays are. And there's nothing wrong with Apple's, but like when you put them side by side, there is a hefty difference, in my opinion.
Well, what's happening there is a little behind the scenes stuff. Samsung Display and Samsung Electronics are two different companies, even though they both license the name Samsung. And so Samsung Display sells Samsung Electronics for the phones, displays that Samsung Electronics has designed and tasked Samsung Display to build. Apple designs its own displays, kind of like how Foxconn builds the iPhone. Apple builds its own OLED displays, gives it to Samsung Display, and they build that for Apple. So Apple's not taking off-the-shelf parts that you would find in an S22 and then just putting those into an iPhone. But since Samsung Electronics gets preference, they get to go first. And so if there's only this many displays, like 120 hertz adaptive, right? If there's only this many displays they can make at first with that tech, Samsung Electronics is going to get that before Apple can, until they can make enough for all of their customers. And so that's why Apple's kind of behind on the display tech.
But it's also uniformity. Samsung's not the only one that's assembling the displays. LG is doing it too on a smaller scale, from what I understand as well. So it has to be uniform across. But to your point, Samsung displays have always, I think it's a fair statement that Samsung makes the best displays in the industry.
Yep.
Like you can be the most ardent Apple fan and still be like, okay, that display is really good. And it is interesting, but Apple's color science is different. Like if you put the two side by side, like the reds look different, the blues look different, the greens look different, and just a personal taste. But I mean, Samsung displays are absolutely unbelievable, and generally are about 2 generations ahead from where Apple's displays end up being.
So their displays are so good that sometimes it makes their camera feel like it's really good too. You ever
100%.
take a picture on a Galaxy device and be like, that looks amazing. And then you pull it off and you look at it on your computer and you're like, that doesn't look nearly as good as what I thought it was going to look like.
Yes.
So hopefully they can kind of figure out that gap between their displays being so far ahead and making things look really good, and then their actual image quality from the camera being that good. I did see, John, I think it was yours, right? You posted the various zoom levels.
Yeah.
Is it just my eyes, or was it Twitter compression, or what? Every time you kept going up to the next level of zoom, it looked as if the color science was shifting warmer? Or was that just the photo? Or
no, I think actually it was. So those were all optical zoom. There was no digital zoom happening there. So each lens sort of interprets color differently and then processes it. And I noticed that too, actually, that got warmer. I tried to post those pictures without comment, like just be like, here, what does the internet think? But I definitely noticed the warmness. But the crazy thing was, like, there's a black Civic in the 10 times zoom that you could not see in like the ultra wide and the regular wide. And then you could read the freaking license plate on the car, which was unbelievable. And again, 3 times zoom is the most Apple has bestowed upon us. When you see 10 times zoom done that well and optically is unbelievable. And just a really cool execution.
Yeah, I'm hoping that makes its way soon. I mean, it should, but they really need to get in on that, because 3x optical zoom is very outdated, like you just said. It's not going to work.
What's funny is that 3x just came, because last year it was 2.5.
Yeah.
So 3x is like not even old for Apple. It's like new for Apple. I expect that to go up. I don't think it's going to go up that much, but if this is the year that they do 8K, then they'll have the 48 megapixel at least.
Yep.
So you should be able to have at least 10, I would assume. Do you need more than 10? How about that? Do you need more than 10?
Maybe 5.
But megapixel and the zoom are different discussions, unless you're going to do digital zoom.
I'm assuming here, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you need a higher megapixel count to keep things as you're cropping in with the zoom? Or you're saying optical? It's optical, so it's not a digital crop.
But if it's optical, it shouldn't matter. For digital crop, you should.
Right. Okay. Speaking of Apple, they have an event rumored to be coming up in about 3 weeks or so.
So do we know anybody we can talk to about Apple rumors? I guess specifically about MacRumors?
Right. Dan,
yeah, I think
what's going on with this event? We talked about this a couple days ago. So I was actually on the MacRumors podcast. And as we started talking about this upcoming event...
you got the invitation to be on the MacRumors podcast.
I got the invitation.
How was that?
It is very fun, very interesting.
Is it a magical
The first
place?
thing I asked him, he said, last week we had John on. And I was like, wait a minute. How did John get the invite? And it turned out to be John Prosser. It was John Prosser.
Yeah,
like,
no, the good John. Yeah, I have it. My invite, I think, got lost in the mail.
John, you are our next. Next guest.
We'll see. I might be busy.
Everybody knows that once you get past 3 people, the conversation gets muddy, and there's too many people. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. And we also know that Andrew would fly out to Cleveland and cut me if I didn't ask him first. But in reality, it actually just ended up being, I looked at my phone and I was like, oh, Andrew just texted me and we need somebody. I should probably just ask him real quick.
It's
That's
fine.
it.
It's fine. I'm not salty.
So listen, as we were talking about this upcoming event, the podcast started feeling like we were just talking about something that bored us. Like we were not excited about this upcoming event.
Yeah.
What are we expecting? And I think it's because this event is not meant for the people who buy things like an iPad Pro or the iPhone Pro or even the MacBook Pro. This is more for people who are just looking for entry-level Apple devices, right?
So I think on the podcast I asked you, did you ever remember a like really boring Apple event and like recently, and we were trying to stick to virtual, but I think I just remembered one that was pretty boring. Remember a few years ago when they did just the standard iPad and it was like the classroom?
Yep.
It was terrible for us, for people like us. But for the general, especially people in the classrooms, teachers, students, like it was probably great for them. That feels a lot like this. This is going to be, if the rumors are true, probably underwhelming for most of you because we're not expected to get anything crazy. Like the main 2 things that we're pretty confident about, the iPhone SE 3 and the next generation iPad Air, they're going to be iterations, just slight changes, mostly internal hardware bumps, and there's not going to be anything from a wow standpoint. Now, there could be... Go ahead.
So you don't think we're going to see MacBook Air or iMac?
So that's where I was going to get that. Now, there's supposed to be a Mac, and we actually just found out today that they just filed for some new Macs that are coming.
3 of them.
3 of them. And so that changes things. Now, they can file it now, and that doesn't mean they have to be now, but that is interesting timing because we were only kind of expecting 1, maybe 2, but most likely the Mac Mini that would feature the M1 Pro and the M1 Max chips. Replace that high-end Intel Mac Mini that we currently have and bring everything, in the Mac Mini lineup down to the Apple Silicon level. Because we already have the M1, but we don't have Creative Professional Dream Mac Mini where you can basically get the same performance of the new M1 Pro and Max MacBook Pros that we have, which are incredible. And now you can get that in the bring your own display Mac Mini form factor, which I think a lot of people that work in this industry or other creative industries that need that processing power and that graphic power, they're going to drool over that. They're going to love that. Now, the MacBook Air...
Can I ask you a question about the Mac Mini just real fast before you move on?
Sure.
Should we expect additional power from the M1 Pro and Max? Because obviously these are always plugged in, right? There's no relying on battery power at all. No underclock needs to be doing. Should we expect the same performance?
Yeah. It's possible that they go the route of the iMac with that type of power adapter and maybe moving in the Ethernet, because the rumor about this redesign for the Mac Mini is that it's going to feature that same magnetic style plug and everything. So I haven't heard anything about there being any crazy changes to the additional power or anything.
No, I mean performance.
You're talking about the power of the chip.
The power of the chip.
Oh, God. I thought you were talking about like powering it, like actually feeding power to it.
Oh, no. I mean like the actual power.
No, since it should be fine.
Since it's always plugged in, it doesn't have to rely on underclocking.
Oh, no, you should be totally fine. And even if there was, for some reason, it wasn't, like, have you guys noticed any crazy differences between your MacBook being unplugged and your MacBook being plugged in?
No, that's fair.
Yeah, they're totally, I mean, in my mind, I have not ever noticed a problem. So, no, we should be totally fine there. And yeah, I mean, there were rumors about a redesign. I'm not sure now, if some of those crazy color options that people were talking about were a thing. But it should kind of revert back to the older...
Saying no.
What's that?
I'm saying no. We will not see...
Yeah, you said no.
Not see that.
A little tease. Our podcast should be out probably pretty soon. I think either tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this. It's most likely out already. But yeah, Andrew was very skeptical of that rumor. And it makes a lot of sense because traditionally, Pro devices do not get fun colors. So the whole copying the iMac two-tone look, you might get 2 tones, but it's probably going to be 2 different shades of monochrome tones. So, I mean...
2 grays.
Yeah, to gray and darker gray. That's what it's going to be. But who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us. But it just doesn't make any sense from a cohesion standpoint. Like, I just don't see that being the case anymore. Well, yeah, so there's that. And then I guess if there's 2 other Macs, the rumor is still for the iMac Pro that it's still not maybe June at WWDC, but I don't think that's going to happen at this event. And then the next MacBook Air with that redesign kind of following the look of the iMac. Which would be an M2
device, though.
Which would be an M2. So I just don't see that happening either.
Seems weird.
So it's very possible that Apple filed for 3 of them and 2 of them are just going to be pushed until June. But at that point, I'm expecting a Mac. I'm expecting a Mac Mini. I don't think there's going to be anything else, but I very well could be wrong on that.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope so, too. Because this event's going to be boring if not.
But aren't you excited by how many apps have been installed and sales numbers?
No.
Listen, to me, it doesn't make sense to see an M2 device when they haven't released all of the M1. We're assuming the iMac Pro and the Mac Pro will be M1 based, M1 Pro, M1 Max based devices. We should only see an M2 device if the iMac Pro and Mac Pro, things that are coming later, would be M2 as well, right? Like, we're not going to see an M2 and then later on see more M1 stuff. That just seems strange, right?
Yeah, I mean, Apple could do whatever they want. We all know that. But I mean, it doesn't make any sense to do it that way, and I don't think they would do it that way. It very well could be that there isn't a whole lot to talk about with the SC and the iPad Air, and then they do a refresh for the Mac Mini, and then introduce the M2 and go from there, and then say that here's what we're expecting to come, and then they can elaborate on those Macs more at WWDC and more about the M2 at WWDC. That's not what's been rumored. This is just my own opinion on what they could do if they want to make this event more interesting. But I don't know if they're in the business of trying to make this more interesting than they need to. I think they have a schedule on what they want to release, and they're just going to release them and make them sound like they're the next best things.
John, what do you want to see next from Macs in particular?
I'm really excited for the MacBook Air. That was my first introduction to the new M series of chips and Apple's own silicon. I was blown away by how good that computer was. If it had a SD card reader, I would have kept it. It did everything that I needed. So I'm excited to see the next gen of that, especially a redesign. Apple's no stranger, though, to confusing nomenclatures on their devices, of releasing M2 while M1 still exists. I mean, we had an iPad, iPad Air, iPad Pro, where we wasn't sure if the iPad Air was below the iPad. The iPad was sometimes better than the iPad Air. The iPad Air was then outdated, and we still had the iPad Pro.
iPad Mini.
Yeah, and then the iPad Mini. Like, I just want an iPad. My parents were like, well, I don't know. Let me call you 13 times in the store to help figure out which one to get. I'm really excited for the Air, because I think that's that's the go-to computer for a lot of folks. I think we oftentimes, in our industry, and me included, have a hard time seeing past our noses with the professional stuff. I need power. I need Pro Max. I need 32 gigabytes and 28 terabytes of storage. But for a lot of folks, and I think probably us if we tried, like, the iPad Air is a beast machine. And if Apple can get the price right and can get a really good-looking redesign, a computer that hasn't really been redesigned in a while, I think they're going to sell incredibly well. I mean, a $999 MacBook Air that's like well-equipped is a hard computer not to recommend to pretty much anybody looking for a computer. And Apple's still in a war with Intel in a world where you can get a lot lower-priced Windows machines that are still pretty powerful. It needs to be a compelling option, a compelling reason to spend that money. I think the MacBook Air is really going to be Apple's kind of Trojan horse to get people to either switch back to or switch to Mac for the first time.
For the sleeper, the unexpected.
Yes. One more thing.
One more thing. Not that it's going to be one more thing worthy.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen. Ready? It's going to be one more thing.
They're going to
be one more thing. Tim Cook's going to drive out in the Apple car wearing the goggles. Right? So drive out wearing the goggles, step out of the car, announce that they've just purchased Tesla, and this is actually going to be rebranded as a Tesla product, and then go for a workout on the recently acquired Peloton that Apple has just acquired. It's probably going to be the one more thing.
If that happens,
Netflix has been acquired and will become just renamed Apple TV Plus.
If all of that happens, I don't know. I don't even know what to do. I mean, I could shave my head, but that's not enough.
I'd like to see it.
I'll quit. I will never make another video again. And also, I'll never call Apple boring ever, because that would be the greatest event in the history.
That would.
And before I get people yelling at me, though, that's not going to. Obviously, I'm kidding. I want to just be very clear about all of those things.
I mean, all of those things could very well happen in the future.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a new service. I think we're going to see either the Apple Classical Music service or have audiobooks added in as a new service and both of these will be added to Apple One.
Oh, I'm into
if
that.
You're an Apple One customer.
I pay for Audible every month. I'd be down to having that rolled into Apple One.
I can't imagine the classical thing as a new service, right? That's just going to be added to Apple Music.
I think it will be added to Apple Music, but it's going to be its own like separate app.
But what's going to spice up the keynote more than like, ladies and gentlemen, set your expectations to high. We have Chopin.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing live Mozart. Yeah. Let's go.
Oh my God.
Did Andrew just get a live package delivery? Andrew, show us. What is it?
What's in the package, Andrew?
Yeah.
It's the iPhone SE. Oh! You got to read the poem. There's a special poem that they wrote unique for everybody.
For you, love TCL. Wait, so you got one of these, John?
Yeah, but they wrote a special poem for like you got your own. You'll see when you open up. I don't want to ruin what's in it.
Oh, a custom poem. Okay. Well,
wait, a custom poem? I got mine waiting for me at the FedEx store. I have to go pick it up.
Dan, how's your custom art?
Shut it.
Oh, are these inside jokes from the podcast?
No, this is just
remember,
inside jokes.
You got the first one with the custom art, right?
I'm on the outside of those.
Dan never got the custom art.
You could be more. You could be more on the inside. Yeah. This is a good time. You know, what better time to include someone in their lives with TCL than Valentine's Day? So this is, I get skipped on certain packages. It's okay. It's fine.
Dan, thank you for being a good sport. And thank you for being
one of the best guests and humans out there.
On Earth, literally.
I swear we'll change up our set, John. I promise. Just take a picture of your set, and I'll make sure to not purchase everything and copy what we're. We should copy it one for one and see if anyone notices.
I'll send you the Apple light that we use for the Apple Circle.
Honestly, yeah, I want one. That would be sweet.
Thank you, Dan. Though it's always a pleasure to talk football, tech, and life with you. You're a good sport about the playful ribbing.
Oh no, it's fine. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me, guys.
And that is it for this edition of Geared Up. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, you can catch John and I on YouTube. I'm at youtube.com/GearLive, and John is at youtube.com/John4Lakers. Feel free to head over and subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on all the latest tech. Speaking of subscribing, you can subscribe to Geared Up in your favorite podcast app if you haven't done so already. Just search Geared Up, that's 2 words, not one, in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Overcast, or really wherever you choose to listen. If you like what we do, please consider leaving us a rating and review. It really helps other people find the show. Geared Up is a Gear Live podcast, and you can see more from us at gearlive.com. Thank you so much for listening. For John Rettinger, I'm Andrew Edwards, and we'll catch you in the next episode.